Hello and welcome to another episode of Intune.training, the place to learn how to use Microsoft Intune, the Steve and Adam Show. Hey, I'm Adam.
Hey, I'm Steve.
Hey, Steve, how's it going, man?
It's pretty good, mate. Pretty good. Having a lot of fun doing all these podcasts today and setting up everything so we can do some cool demos. How about
Me too, man. Yeah, so this is our third video of the night. We're trying to knock out a couple and get us some buffer before some vacation time. Yeah, I get to go camping. So today we are going to talk about how to do some troubleshooting. We're not going to get into the weeds on specific issues, but if you've watched any of our previous videos, you know that we've stumbled a few times on our demos because we like to just do this live and just take it as it comes. So today we're going to go through the scenario of a user's going to call the help desk and say, hey, I'm having a problem with my machine, and we will kind of pick it up from there and walk through how you would go and find that machine in the Intune portal and interact with it and be able to take actions or look at the applications and policies that are assigned to it, and possibly even remotely connect in through the TeamViewer client, things like that. And so Steve's going to kind of walk through the portal, and we're going to chat about things as we go. So let's do it.
Cool. Let's do it. All right. So let's step across. So as Adam was saying, we're going to go through that scenario of, look, Adam's rung up with a problem with his computer, and how we'd go through and triage and find out more information about Adam's computer and everything around that. So rather than needing to ask Adam for his computer name and etc., or his TeamViewer ID, we can actually capture that all via the Intune and Azure portal now. So I'm going to start off, we're going to start in the Intune portal. As an Intune administrator, even as a first level support person, with the correctly delegated level of access granted, you can give your support staff the ability to go in and select Intune and view all of the configuration. So today we're selecting users, and Adam's ringing us up with the problem. So from here, we have a couple of useful points that we need to look at. First off, we have troubleshooting, where we can drill into the actual troubleshooting of the device. This is actually a pretty cool blade that doesn't bring back much information in here as I was expecting. So we'll go to devices. So devices in here, we have the ability to select the device that Adam's working on, and I'll now open that device up. We'll see here the BitLocker key, when it was registered, when it was last active, and everything around what Adam's computer is and how it's been configured, patch level, and etc. From here, we're going to hit the Manage button. This is where there's a little bit of a quirk in the Microsoft Intune or AAD to Intune handoff, where when you select the device and go across, it now then needs to go through the All Devices blade. So if we just take that one step back, and we're just going to copy the computer name. The reason why I say copy the computer name, even though in this environment we only have 2, is if you've got 2000, you need to know that computer name. So just make sure you grab that as you go through. And we're just going to search, and we can see that that's Adam's computer there.
So now, Steve, it looks like there we also could have searched by my email address or something there as well to get to the same place. Is that accurate?
Yep, definitely.
Cool.
And that allows you to see all of Adam's devices straight away. So it is just a different direction on getting access to that data points.
Excellent.
So we can now see Adam's computer here. What we can see along the top is all the ability to retire, wipe, delete, remote lock if it supports that, sync, reset passcode, autopilot reset, fresh start, restart, quick scan, full scan. We also have the ability to bring up more options where we have the update Defender Security Intelligence and rename device. So there's a few things here that we all, oh, and then the third one, once it's configured, is the remote assistance session. So what we see on the screen is a whole heap of options to wipe devices and be very destructive of the device, as well as doing AV and everything associated. There's a couple that I don't recommend really using. One of those is the rename device, because why would you need to rename a device when it's just cattle?
I like how they've got that one hidden, but they've got
Yes,
wipe and fresh start right next to each other, just ready to go there.
I like that the restart and autopilot reset icons are the same.
The only thing they're missing is putting them directly next to each other and having just taking off autopilot off of the front of that and just saying restart and reset.
Yeah.
I mean, what's the difference? People won't know. I mean, because really, Steve, we've talked about this.
Yep.
We could just wipe your machine and not care. And so, I mean, really, that's all we want to do is just reset it all the time.
Yep.
Autopilot reset every time. That should, like when you go to get a security update, restart, yeah, it's really just going to autopilot reset you. That's what we should do.
Yeah, definitely. Take half an hour to restart the computer every time.
with all the amazing things that we've got going on here, I just feel like maybe they could have paid a little extra for the 12 icon pack that they used instead of. I mean, come on, they reused the same arrows and the same buttons. I mean, wipe and fresh start use the same buttons. Restart and autopilot reset, quick scan, full scan. I mean, come on, guys. It's getting there, but geez, this is where we're going to send our technicians, and this is where you can have the most impact, or not the most impact, but have some impact to end users. And I feel like clicking the wrong button here would just give you a bad day.
It could, yes, especially if it's the wrong person. So what we're then going to talk about from here is that new remote assistance session button. As you can see on this tenant, it's grayed out because we haven't linked a TeamViewer environment. If we'd previously linked a TeamViewer environment to this tenant, we'd be able to select that button and a message would pop up in Adam's company portal app saying, an administrator is trying to connect to your computer. One thing to note is if you're wanting to run things as administrator via the TeamViewer session, you need to make sure that you've previously deployed the TeamViewer host client out to all of those computers as system, and then maintain that and keep it up to date. If you don't, you're going to have your end users download the cut down version of the TeamViewer agent and then jump through the myriad of hoops of explaining to them how to connect. So highly recommend making sure you download that and deploy the TeamViewer host.
Now, when you download the TeamViewer host and get that imported into the tenant and configured, does it build out your deployment package that you would use to push out, or is it something you'd have to configure separately?
No, that's something you have to configure completely separately, and it's a full manual process that is just what we've learned from our experience doing this. The other thing to note is once you do hit the new remote assistance session here, and we click that, you will then have the ability to click on here, which will have a link saying, it'll open up a link saying, this is your connection session to Adam's computer. So it's not completely intuitive, but I've seen worse.
It feels like it's maybe a stopgap feature that will maybe get replaced or improved at some other point. Because I mean, TeamViewer, I'm assuming you're not getting a free TeamViewer license as part of your Intune subscription, so you're probably having to subscribe to and pay for a service on TeamViewer separately in order to use that feature.
That's correct. So you need to pay for a TeamViewer subscription and enough TeamViewer sessions at the same time to be able to support your environment. So it's an important one to make sure you have working.
And is that basically the only option at this point, or the only supported built-in option for remote management by an admin on a machine? I mean, unless you had some other third-party TeamViewer-like thing that you manage through a different console or something, I would suspect.
Yeah, that's correct. So there's only one one connector for that remote assistance, which is the TeamViewer remote assistance solution. So yeah, it is what we have to use today, unless you're putting out your own third-party solution.
Or if you're using Config Manager with co-management and going through the Cloud Management Gateway and using the remote control tool.
That's correct. So if you've got that co-management connection in there with the SCCM client, you can use the remote control tool as well.
Cool.
Yeah, definitely. So what we're looking at here is we have the ability to bring up our the properties of the device as well. So we can see all of that pertinent information and the last time it reported home and everything around that. My internet's a little bit slow today, but this is where we have the ability to classify it, whether it's a personal or corporate device. From an admin point of view, this is more a super admin point of view where we can define, do my support staff have access to see this device or not?
And I believe you said previously that the scope tags essentially give you the type of a similar granular level of control as the role-based administration would, the RBAC configuration in Config Manager would be?
I believe so, yes. Cool. That's my understanding. So now if we go across the hardware, so you'll see that actually, quickly while I'm here, you'll see that the device actually has two names. We have a management name and we have a device name. Device name is the pretty name that the customer sees, whereas the management name is what's used behind the scenes in Intune, and they're never going to be the same. We then have the ability to step into that hardware object and find out more information about it, where you've got your AAD and your Intune identities, serial numbers, if it's a shared device, so this is where you can start using kiosk devices and things like that. The operating system version number is actually a really interesting feature to have there as well, because this gives us it will tell us, is it patched? Because these last three digits, or anything after the last full stop, tells you the cumulative update version of that computer. So I can see by this, it's probably about a month out of date from patching, because Microsoft recently released an updated version. But yeah, it's an interesting number to have there. The other big one to look at here is that free storage. Do I have enough space to be able to do what I need to do? And along with the last contact details and any compliance information about that device. And is it supervised, encrypted? So this then gives you the ability to understand the conditional access rules. We have then the ability to see the discovered apps. So this is what's been discovered by the Store for Business and some Win32 applications primarily. It's not the same as what you see in add remove programs. It's not meant to be. You'll see that it even has the likes of the .NET runtimes and speed tests and things like that you don't necessarily see on the client side. So there's always going to be information here that you go, oh, I didn't know that was on that computer, like Zune Music and Zune Video, because these are the apps that we used for the Store for Business names. The other cool stuff that we have here is obviously the compliance policies, and look, Adam's computer is not compliant, and we can drill into why Adam's computer isn't compliant.
I think it's due to incompetent administrators who failed to configure a basic compliance policy, but hey, whatever.
More than likely. And you can see straight away we have that policy of has compliance policy assigned. That's an error, and this is a default policy that Microsoft has there. We also then have the ability to see all of our configuration policies, our app config if you've deployed any application configuration to the device, baselines, BitLocker recovery keys. So if you have multiple keys, you can see those in here. and managed apps, which is, it's a newer tab, and it actually allows us to go in and click on, say, maths, and see the history of that application. So when it installed and the last time it refreshed, and so when a user claims that this app's never installed, it's like, well, we're reporting that it's installed, so we might need to go and connect to that computer and understand why it's not working. If it does fail, so if we go back to all devices, and I'll show you an example of where it has failed because we still haven't fixed the Microsoft Maths on my computer. And we go to managed apps. We can see here Microsoft Maths is still failed. I can go and see all of the information around that, and we can also collect logs if the computer's online. And this will say, well, this is where the log files are located. Please pull them back. Pretty cool, right?
I really like this. And so if you watched our Win32 app video, you will have seen that this is where we died on trying to get Maths to install. And I followed up with that and figured out what the problem was, wrote a blog post, which we've linked in that video. And so this is what I did. This is actually how I got there and discovered what was going on, was able to look up this error code, cross-reference it, and blah, blah, blah. So so this is great. This is exactly how it worked for me. I did that. Yep. So it's good.
So that's the straight up easy way of per user. The other thing that you can look at here is you can go all the way back to the overview, and we go to troubleshoot down the bottom. And this is a special blade where we can go and select a user. So I'll select my account again because we know we have some errors on that one. And I'll find my account. And we're going to select that. And then from there, we can go and see the information about what's going on. Okay, that computer's had an app install issue, and it'll take us to that device as well. So there's a couple of different ways you can get there, but you can also see more information about that user straight away by looking at this blade. So you can see the account's active, it's got an Intune license, devices are compliant, so I should have access to all of the content that I need to have access to. We can then start drilling into those compliance policies and configuration profiles and see how they're working for my account. Yeah, and any restrictions that are set. So we don't have any restrictions at the moment, so that's why we're not seeing anything there. Just like we don't have any application protections or enrollment failures for the whole environment. So yeah. I figure this is a really cool place where you can also see your tenant status as well. So now that we've gone and connected the Google Play information and the Apple push notification certificate expiry, so it's all in the same situation. The only thing that we don't have turned on here is that DEP last sync date, which is the Apple Device Enrollment Program system. But the problem we have there is we don't have a DUNS ID for our environment. So we'll never be able to register that unless we register a business. You can also see your service release number and click through that and see the information about that version of Intune and if there's anything that may have changed that could be impacting the issues you're having.
Excellent.
And you'll also see now they have it takes 3 days to roll out across the whole environment. And they explain which day you're going to see everything depending on where you are, which is cool. And if you've got an RSS feed that you need to be able to track, you can grab this link and put it in there, and you can see every time there's an update, you'll get a notification.
You know, the thing I love about this is you kind of don't really need to mess with your traditional change management. You know, oh, we've got to schedule the change and we've got to have an outage and things.
Yep.
Just like, hey, we logged in today and it's new. And here's our new features this month.
Yep. And then you have the conversation with your change managers and go, oh yeah, there's this new feature in Intune, but I didn't release that. I was like, no, you
Neither
didn't.
did we. We signed up for this when we signed up for Intune. Thanks.
Yes, indeed.
And so from a on the client, or so this is all the stuff you can do from the Intune portal to help an end user or help get to the root cause of a problem that a user might be having, or to at least kind of get to a starting point for working on that machine and get a holistic picture before you even remote into that machine to begin doing any remediation if you need to get on it. We've also talked in several of our videos, we've opened up the company's portal, and the sync settings, the diagnostics report there, and been able to show you, how you can see that data. We've also opened up the event log and looked at some of the different event viewer areas that you can look for issues there as well. So hopefully you can kind of pull all of that information together as you're going through debugging and troubleshooting issues with your end users. And I guess for me, the big change here is that we just have to look in different places now. It's not as, we've been doing it for so long with config manager or whatever, that now we've got to look for, we're used to troubleshooting group policies not working. So we know, here run GP result or go look in the registry or different things, and it's easy and obvious. And well, now it's just different. It's the same concept. We just have to know where to go look. So I think this is very helpful, having a nice overview of the different ways to get to the information in the console.
Yep, definitely. And that's the goal out of this, is making sure that people are aware of how you can get that information. Like even on the overview page, we can see if there's any issues around device assignments or application installations. And this is, it's super important stuff that makes it so your life's a lot easier as an admin, because it's all at your fingertips now. And there's no conversation of, well, I didn't know. It's like, well, if you didn't know, you weren't paying attention. You weren't going into your tools.
Yeah, and the dashboard concept here is something that has been that nirvana state that we've always wanted to get to in our enterprise. Of, we want to get out of the, triage and dealing with putting out fires as they come in, and we want to switch over to proactively seeing the picture, seeing the things as they start to come off the rails, and being able to proactively reach out and contact people, or even better yet, fix the things that we see that are broken because we've seen an aggregate number start climbing, and we say, oh, hey, there's a problem with this thing and it's affecting this many devices, and we can tell that directly in this portal and be able to address those before the calls even start coming in. We can address it, send the help desk a note and say, hey, by the way, we had this thing, we fixed it. Users call in, just tell them reboot, whatever. Hey, it's done.
Yep.
So I love that. I mean, they've done a lot of that heavy lifting, and I think even more so, this is that value add piece that a lot of organizations don't ever get to, because it's hard to get this data in a useful format. And because of the way that devices are checking into Intune regularly and reporting their status, it's very easy for Intune to aggregate that data in a way that makes it really reportable and actionable. And I think the actionable piece here really is the key that makes this quite a powerful tool.
Well, it also comes down to the size of the organization. So if you're a small organization, you can't justify sitting there and spending 2 months developing a platform to be able to have that single pane of glass for your reporting to see straight away, oh, apps with installation failure issues. Well, that looks pretty important. Let's click into that and we can see that information. Just to build that and capture that information as a smaller organization, that's an expensive amount of time. And you've got to have developers and the experts and understanding not just the development components, but also the information so it can be presented back in a useful manner. So one thing you'll note here now, Adam, based on our now that we've connected Android and iOS, is that we're now starting to see Play Store apps and iOS apps in here.
I was noticing that. That's really cool.
Yeah. So they come through automatically. Cool.
Yeah. So then as we so I guess this is the piece that's really neat too, is that while they're not all the same, they're very similar. It's the same concepts. It's we need to enroll devices, we need to trust devices, we need to control devices, restrict content, we need to be able to get apps on those devices and manage those centrally. And so each of Windows, Android, iOS all have similar configuration things that we can manage in here. But you notice that we're not doing any third-party management here other than the TeamViewer client. As we've gone through this, we're not, we're not bringing in AirWatch or something to manage our iOS devices. We're being able to do that directly. Now, I mean, there's pluses and minuses with these things, but
yep, it's that
so
single pane of glass is the big thing for me. It's all around that single pane of glass and what we can do with that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, I think this is very, very informative. I hope other people find it to be informative as well. So definitely. I think on that we'll end this one. So signing off, I'm Adam Gross, and you can find me on Twitter at AdamGrossTX. And Steve?
And I'm Steve Hosking. You can catch me at OnPrem Cloud Guy on Twitter. And yeah, if you've got any questions or if you're wanting us to look at any part of Intune or the EMS platform, feel free to hit us up and we'll look to add that to our sessions. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks, Steve. See ya.
Thanks, Adam. Bye.